I answer the phone and I'm talking. My wife's looking at me like, who are you on the phone with? Who are you talking to? I got this. Madison Square Garden, Glory. All right. Jump back into that fight, and then he ended up breaking my jaw. That was a fight that, in my head, probably shouldn't have happened. As my wife said, I shouldn't have taken that fight.
The insane excuses that people give when they don't show up to a fight.
Guy showed up to the event. Hey, just to let you know, I have no cup, no mouthpiece, no shorts, but I'm here to fight. 3 hours before the fight, I found him a cup, I found him a mouthpiece, and I found him a pair of shorts, right? And
did he win?
Welcome, guys, to another episode of Kit and the Brit. My name is Kit, and the co-host, Sean Hinds.
What's up?
Today, we have a very special guest. He goes by Guch, but his real name is James. He's been a staple in the Muay Thai scene, East Coast Muay Thai scene, for a long time. And you can see him front row at the Warriors Cup shows. Does a lot of the matchmaking, and he'll be able to tell us more about the shows. So, welcome, Guch, to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Guch, just give us a brief introduction of yourself. Yeah.
So, James Guccione, like you said, the Guch. No matter what, it ends up the Guch. You know, my dad was the Guch, my grandfather was the Guch. So it always ends up there. Yeah. You know, now I got the Gucci girls, my daughters. You know what I mean? The Gucci girls.
Yeah, the Gucci girls.
Now I got passed on. I got three Gucci girls, 3 kids. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I've been basically right now the Warriors Cup's been my main focus, but I saw I was a Muay Thai fighter. I also work construction. I worked for Con Edison for 23 years. Damn, long time. Yeah, now I'm starting to try to transition fully to like a full union position. That always gets Sean riled up. That one always gets Sean riled up, the union jobs, you know. But yeah, you know, I got a position on, you know, the executive board of my union, represents, you know, 7,500 Con Edison workers, and you know, my next steps would try to become a business agent where I won't actually work for Con Ed anymore. Yeah. But I've been there 23 years, so it's been a big part of my life throughout, when I was training, when I was fighting, you know, now promoting. You know, they don't necessarily love that I'm, you know, running a combat sports business on the clock, but sometimes it goes down.
Exactly. And tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the Muay Thai scene and how you got started with the Muay Thai.
Yeah, so I'd say my first experience with Muay Thai was in like 2009, early 2009.
Okay.
I actually went away to rehab. You know, I was living a different life. I went away. You know, I was gone for quite some time. I came home, you know. My life was feeling a lot better. I was feeling a lot healthier than the way I was living. And one of my good friends that I grew up with, he was training at Church Street at the time. You know, he was with Jason Strout. And, you know, he was, I think, Jason was his coach at the time. And he was fighting Muay. And he said, hey, we haven't seen you. You know, everybody's worried. He goes, I'm fighting. You want to come? I said, fighting? What kind of fighting? He was like, Muay Thai. I was like, what's that? Yeah. You know, like, what's Muay Thai? He was like, yeah, I'm fighting Muay Thai down in, you know, for Friday night fights. So I came to see him. It was like my first night out, and I just watched him in the ring. Actually, he fought a Seton guy. He fought Tank, and it was him versus Tank. And I watched that fight, and I was just like, I want to do that. I was like, whatever, I need to do this. And he was like, yo, come to the gym on Monday. And I think it was like 4 months later, which was pretty aggressive, but I had like my first like exhibition amateur fight.
Wow, 4 months.
Yeah, it was like 4, but I was focused. You know, I had really, my whole life was on a flip mode.
If you know this, if you know Goose,
it was 4 months.
4 months.
That was a long time. But yeah, I mean, I went right to it. I got in a gym. I mean, I had karate experience and stuff like that, so it wasn't like it was my first time throwing a punch. I started doing martial arts when I was 4 years old, so I had like a long history with like, you know, karate, you know what I mean? But then, and I had boxed a little bit too. I had gone back and forth to boxing gyms. So I had a little boxing experience when I was younger, you know, in between like when I was acting, you know, when I was good. Like, you know, I always say when martial arts was in my life, I was doing the right thing. When one way or another. When martial arts wasn't in my life, we try not to talk about those days often. I brought them up, but we try not to talk about them often.
Maybe a different podcast.
Yeah, maybe a different podcast, but those were different times. So when I have martial arts in my life, everything's going smooth, and it's been that way since 2009. So
that's
since 2009, it's been going smooth. I've been on a nice run. My mom's been sleeping well at night.
Exactly. So your first gym was Church Street?
No. So he was. he was working up. So he trained at Church Street, but he was working up as like an instructor up at Westchester Fight Club.
Okay,
Up in
yeah.
New Rochelle. They're not around anymore now. It's a boxing gym.
Yeah.
But so he was in there. So he started training me in there, and I was, you know, really focused. I started, you know, every day I was in the gym every day. Like they couldn't get me out of that gym. And then really just took off from there. I started fighting in like these upstate, like smoker fights, you know, unsanctioned fights. Really,
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
it had a referee and a judge, but it was, you know, it was like you remember those. But and then it just progressed from there. And then eventually I kind of, you know, I don't know what the proper word for change. You know, me and him were always still good, but I basically moved on. I was at C3 Athletics. I met Sean. That's where I met Sean.
Wow.
In
Up in
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Yes.
Yeah, up in Connecticut. And that's where I met
C3,
Sean.
yeah.
And then that's really like when I met Sean is really where, you know, my Muay Thai really progressed into
Gotcha.
some, you know what I mean, a little more serious.
Remember
He was
when
getting me in real
we
fights.
spoke to Chris about that mental toughness?
Yes.
Like Guch walked in there.
Guch is the
he
example of that.
had like 60% of the fight game down packed before he even learned how to throw a punch and a kick properly.
Do you remember your first encounter with Guch? Up at C3?
Oh yeah, I think I sparred with him.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember.
Yeah, I
when
think
you
You guys
my
just sparred.
first
And I
encounter with
remember
most
his
people,
first
most encounters with most people in the gym is I sparred with you the first time. We sparred together.
Yeah.
And even then, like it didn't matter what you hit him with, he was just.
He was there.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, could be a bit of annoyance to some people.
Yeah, but you
know what
loved
I mean?
it. Yeah.
No, I mean it translates because there was one fight. There was a funny fight where he had on Friday Night Fights, where the fight. Now he's brought a bunch of his friends from Con Ed and all that, so he's got a good crowd of people
Following,
in there.
yes.
So he walks in the ring and everyone's Gooch, and he's soaking it up. You know, he's looking to the crowd.
He's looking at the crowd.
I'm sure he's looking for Anna somewhere in the crowd to say hi or whatever, you know. And all I remember is bringing the bucket from the edge of the ring to put it down on the floor. And when I got up, I saw Gucci on the floor. Like the dude had just fucking laid him out.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But he got up and to that mental toughness, like dug it through the remainder of the first round.
Yeah.
Second round went out there, fight stopped within the first minute and a half of the second round.
Oh, so you stopped him.
Yeah, I end up winning that fight by knockout. But I remember Sean telling me too. It was like in between those rounds, between 1 and 2, he was like, "You were a zombie." He didn't even know. But then that next round, like when I came out, and even like I watched it, I don't remember that fight. To be honest with you, I lost my memory in that fight. Like
Yes.
I literally only remember I tell people about that fight from talking about it with Sean after and watching the video.
Yes.
But it was like that next round was probably like some of my best technique Muay Thai wise because I was like a zombie. I like resort. My own brain wasn't in it, and I had to like resort to like
Matrix
just
shit.
training,
Yeah.
right?
Some Matrix.
It
Matrix.
ended up being just my training. Even like that was all I was left with because
Yes.
I was done. Yeah, my head was a little messed up. That was kick caught me. Yeah, it was an early kick. It was like boom, and I don't even remember it happening, but I remember seeing it. Now we could pull it up on YouTube. I could see it, and it was like
hopefully
he just
we can bring up a clip of it.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's still there. Yeah, he caught me, boom, and I face planted. But the ref didn't know that I was unconscious. He turned around because the kid ran the wrong way. So the ref was sending the kid to the neutral corner, so he didn't realize I was unconscious. And by the time he turned around, I woke up. Like by watching it, it was perfect timing. I like woke up, and then it was like, so he starts counting me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I definitely wasn't good. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's a
That
great
was
story.
I was saying to myself, like, we went through weeks of training.
Yeah.
And like, I went from here to here, and the dudes just lining
And that
up
was
back.
it, yeah.
I was just like, fuck.
Oh no, but it must have been a great experience.
And
for
then
those
I won,
Con Ed
and then I
folks.
won,
Yeah,
yeah,
when
and that
you
was.
won.
And
Oh,
that
no,
was
I
the
mean,
first time I
look-
had ever been dropped. And I was also like the first, and like after that, I wasn't dropped again until Chris Tapia, which I guess we'll talk about later. But like throughout all my fights after that, I had never gone down. Like that one where that kid caught me in that fight, and it was my first like big show fight on Friday Night Fights. And it was like the first, must have, adrenaline. I got out there, and it was just, he touched me, and I was boom. And it never happened again.
It's that quick flash knock
Yeah,
that
it
you
was a
don't really
flash
see.
knock,
It's not necessarily like a hard, heavy punch. It's just a little clip on the jaw sometimes, and that's
That
all
was
you
it.
need.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
Yeah, we'll pull
Yeah,
up the
but
clip.
that's that mental toughness,
Exactly.
And I think most of his fights afterwards did have a lot to do with mental toughness. Because even that one dude from Brian Crenshaw's gym, what was that kid's name? The big muscle specimen.
Oh, Trevor Rajan.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
He went
This
on. He went out to fight for Glory. He ended up getting a contract. Yeah,
This dude was like a specimen in the ring.
Yo, I'll never forget because we got out there early and it was the WK, so we went to the sauna, so there was a lot of fighters in the sauna, and like we knew some of them from coming to fight for Friday night fights and whatnot. And then we're talking, we're like, oh, you're doing a tournament? Yeah, what weight division you in? So I was like, yeah, 147. And I looked over and this guy was like, me too. And I was like,
that guy was a specimen.
I was like,
I was like,
I was
147.
like, I don't know. You sure we talking about the same division? Remember, I told you I was like, there's no way this guy's in my weight. I was like, it's impossible. There's no way this guy's in my weight. My weight class. It was no way. I was like, this guy can't be, but he did. He made weight, and then.
Having said that, though, man, when that fight actually went on. First 2 rounds, this has got to be one of the most entertaining fights I've ever cornered.
Yes.
First 2 rounds, Guch is in there and he's doing everything you could ask of him to do. You know what I mean? And he's wearing the kid down and he's breaking the kid down and the kid's hitting him with shots, but with the mental toughness, he's still standing there. So the guy is even getting more disheartened, End of the second round comes in, Guch is hyped. Me and Omar Estevez recording. Good, go out there. This last round, we feel you've already run. This last round, you go out, you do Guch.
Yeah.
It was some of the most entertaining shit that I've ever seen before, man. He did the Ali shuffle in there and he hit the guy with a 1-2.
I'll tell you that tournament. I don't know how many fights in that tournament that Sean wasn't even coaching me. He was just laughing in the corner. I went to the corner one time. I'm like, Sean, what you trying to do? He's like, just do what you're doing.
So you were having fun. You were having fun.
Quite entertaining.
It was
just
entertaining, but he was.
Remember the tall guy? That was the same one. I had the tall guy.
Yeah.
I got that picture of you and Omar laughing in the corner.
Rolling
I'm
in the corner.
They were rolling in the corner. I got to find you that picture. It was amazing. But the guy ended up being like 6'5". Like he was like the tallest guy ever.
Yeah.
And I threw some wild high kick up and broke his nose and exploded his nose.
He's never gotten his leg that high before,
It was the craziest thing. Like I've never kicked that high in my life. And it was just like I was like, I have to see if I could touch this guy's head with my foot. Like, it's impossible.
Yes.
And I did. I got him. You know.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, some journeys there,
Yeah, definitely. Italy. Fought out in Italy.
Wow.
Sean took me out there. That was good.
Yeah, had food poisoning for a week.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a rough ride. My American stomach, as Sean called it. Yeah.
but showed up for the fight and fought the whole fight. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Explain what Italy is for everybody who doesn't know what Italy is.
You explain.
Italy, WK. We went to the World Championships.
Okay.
So after he fought the specimen, he won the WK title. So
National title. Yeah.
So on that, he was able to go to fight in the Worlds.
Okay, and out in Italy.
I was out in Italy.
Yeah. So we had a podcast with Jess, and she talks about how different it is to fight overseas. Did you feel any of that at all?
It was different. And like Sean had mentioned, I was quite sick out there. I got quite sick. There was a little bit of a time frame. I guess it was just the scheduling of the tournament. So you had like the weigh-in day. It wasn't the day before. It was like 2 days before. Mm-hmm. So then we were like, I was in Italy. I had never been, out of the country really up to that point. And then we were going out to dinner. Like me and Sean were eating. I remember there was a plate. There might have been some fish heads involved or whatever. Yeah. Sean was fine, but
fish heads. Oh man,
whatever it was we were eating.
No,
it was shrimps with the heads on them or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
All I know is I was eating them, and I probably shouldn't have because they messed me up really bad.
Oh man,
But it could have been something else too. But I'll always think about that plate of fish that got me. I blame Sean for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, it was crazy out there. And the kilogram messed me up out there. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know about that.
Oh.
With the pound.
The kilos translate into pounds.
Yeah, it didn't work in my favor. So I was cutting weight to get out there.
Yeah.
And then when I got there, they were, we figured out the conversion wasn't exactly what I thought it was.
Gotcha.
So I had to cut a little more weight.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've had a really wild fight career, huh?
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun, I'll say.
Well, when did you hang it up?
I hung it up in 2017. So that was fighting for Glory at Madison Square Garden against Chris Tapia, who I now promote most of Chris Tapia's fights.
Oh,
I'm business
interesting.
partners with his coach.
Yeah.
So, Chris Tran, my business partner on the Warriors Cup, it's his fighter. And we had just fought. So we had just fought for Friday Night Fights title.
Yeah.
And that was a 5-round fight in Manhattan. he beat me,
Yeah.
and it was like, and I went down a few times. That was a really entertaining fight. That was that's one of those fights. Like anytime anybody asked me to like, oh, you a fight? Can I see it?
Yeah.
That's the one I
That's the one
direct
to
them
show.
to. It's like
Yes.
it's never a win. I always direct them to a loss. That
Yeah.
was like a really good loss. Like
yeah.
one of those that was like exciting because that
Barn
fight,
burner,
yeah,
yeah.
it was really exciting. It was like I probably should have been done a few times. I came back. It was like it was an they were even saying like the
You
judges
should
were
have
like,
been
you were
done
up.
you should have been done in a lot of your fights a lot sooner.
Yeah. Yeah,
That seems like the theme of the fight.
yeah, that was
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
for sure, yeah.
yeah. Sean used to say, am I gonna have to kick you in the head before you walk in the ring to get you started? Because it used to take once I was like really hurt and in jeopardy, and that's when it was
You'd
like
wake up
it would
and,
bring me
start
on,
fighting,
and then I would start really
although,
fighting.
although the one fight that didn't happen was the one where you said there was your first date with your wife.
Yeah, but I won that one. Yeah,
Right,
yeah. That was the same. That was the same thing. Yeah, that was so that was Carlos Nunez, you know, and I fought it. That was April 27th, and I was actually like I invited my wife to that fight. That was crazy. Like I got married a year later from the date of that fight. Like I met my wife and I was like, "Come see me fight." Blah 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 blah. I tried to sit her with my
That was a
parents.
date.
She
That was a
like,
date.
Yeah,
That
we
was a
kept.
date.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it
I
was a
was
date.
like, you know, and then that was that fight. I came out. I think that was my first no shin guards, and he started firing off leg, and he had my leg in trouble. Like I was like, whoa! Everybody said with the adrenaline, you're not gonna feel it. You know, I was like, that's a lot. I was like, they all lied to me. I remember like my shins never felt so much pain. Like and then I came out like crazy in the next round with boxing and like showing the crowd was going crazy, coach, you know, and I went nuts on him. Yeah, and then I guess. Yeah, that went the distance, but that was another one. They should have stopped that fight on him. I should have got a stoppage on him.
But I mean,
There was a couple.
I mean,
times.
it worked because now she's your wife.
Yeah,
After that,
and then
so-
we got married 1 year later from that date. That's our anniversary. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. So
But go back to the Chris Tapia fight.
Chris Tapia.
Yeah,
So I fought Chris Tapia. He beat me. It was a really entertaining fight. You know, of watching me get thrown around a little bit, but I had some good moments in it too. Like I had a couple good moments, so it was a good back and forth. But I guess it was a couple weeks later after that fight, I get a phone call. Now, at the time, I was in a bathrobe in Maine on vacation at like this resort up in Maine we go to, right? I'm like right outside the pool. I was like in the room, the pool's right outside the door.
Yeah.
And I answer the phone and I'm talking. My wife's looking at me like, who are you on the phone with? Who are you talking to? I got this. And I'm like, oh, 2 weeks? All right, no, not that weight. Oh, it's, maybe a little heavier, maybe a little heavier. All right. Oh, Madison Square Garden, Glory. All right. Hung up the phone. My wife's like, who was that? What did you just say you were going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's Justin Blair. I was like, Glory wants to see that fight again. Chris Tapia had an opponent. He lost him. I'm going to jump in and fight Chris again. My wife's like, he just beat the shit out of you. She was like, you just got destroyed by him.
Yeah.
And then at the time, and she always talks about, like, if you bring that fight up, she talk about, I was drinking champagne out of the bottle and I was dipping lobster in butter while having that conversation.
Oh.
And she always talks, she's like, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
She was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
worst decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Jumped back into that fight, and then he ended up breaking my jaw, in the last round. It made it to the third round. He had dropped me a couple times during the fight. That was a fight that, in my head, probably shouldn't have happened. As my wife said, I shouldn't have taken that fight.
Yeah.
My body was already telling me I was done, I think. But Chris showed me for sure that I was done.
You were done, yeah.
Chris showed me for absolute sure I was done.
And the part that hurts more is that your wife can forever say, I told you so,
100%, 100%
when you're like, I told you so, and we don't listen
100%.
to our spouses,
100%.
that's the I told you so, and that's 100%.
That was four plates, 16 screws in my jaw. I told you so. Yeah, was total,
How was that experience? How long was that recovery?
It was a little while, but it wasn't the end of the world. I made the most of it.
Eating
How
through a
did
straw?
you eat?
I didn't. So this was the thing. When I left there, so my jaw got broken in Madison Square Garden. I knew something was wrong. You heard it. If you watch that video, you hear it sounds like a baseball bat hitting a ball out of a park. But my sister was there. My sister's a dentist.
I was
I'm
sitting
like,
with you.
fine.
I was sitting with you. I was sitting with you.
You were sitting. I'm like,
was
get my
sitting with your
sister.
sister.
So I'm like calling for her. They were like, we got to ship you in the back, get you in the ambulance. I was like, no. Get my sister. She's a dentist. And like somehow they got my sister to like the back in MSG. And like all of a sudden she's looking at me and she made a phone call to like one of her friends. And then I had a guy, remember Mark that I used to train in the mornings?
Yeah.
So he had like a driver with him. It was like a undercover cop, like driving him, and he was like, we'll take you up there. And I'm like, all right. So they drove me up. Like, I didn't go to the hospital. And they drove me up to this doctor's office that my sister knew. And they like, this guy met us there. He turned the lights on. He scanned my head, and he was like, yeah, your jaw is broke. He was like,
Wow.
he was like, I'll wire you right now. And I was like, nah, you're not going to wire me. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, nah, I can't get my jaw wired. I'm just not going to do it. He was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, there's got to be something else. Like, you tell me. You know?
You do it every day. You tell me.
I was like, here's what you do. Like, there's got to be another option.
What's the plan B? What's plan B?
So he
You know,
said,
yeah.
he was like, I can't do it, but there's this like facial surgeon who does like, if you're in like a car wreck and you like ruin your face, he was like the specialist for that. He was like, he could put like plates and do it that way, and then you won't have to get wired. I was nervous about yawn. Like, everybody was like, what? You know, like, why do you want to get... I was like, what if I have to yawn? Like, imagine you can't yawn for 8 weeks without yawning. Like,
That's like
I don't know.
torture.
Like,
That's like
yeah, I'm
torture,
like,
yeah.
I can't
But
go
the way
through
they
it.
did it, you were able to eat.
You couldn't
Or
really
liquid.
eat, but it was mostly liquid. But because I didn't get it wired, I was able to like chew. Like, I was actually eating how there was a place, we were living in Astoria at the time, and it's the Pomeroy on Ditmars, and they had these jalapeno grits. I don't think I'll eat grits ever again in my entire life. If I see jalapeno grits, I am staying far away from the jalapeno grits. I'll tell you that right now. But I lived basically on jalapeno grits. Like, I was just eating jalapeno grit, and then like slowly just like other soft foods, mashed potatoes and stuff like that I was able to eat. But for the most part, it was, mostly liquid.
You were in fight shape,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I did lose some weight. Yeah, but that was a rough time. But it wasn't the end of the world. It was like whatever,
So that was the time to hang up the gloves and then
That was the
transition.
time. Yeah, that
So how
was
did
the
the
time.
opportunity come along where you transitioned into matchmaking, partnering up
So-
with Chris and Eddie and doing Warriors Cup?
Yeah, so I mean, I went through, and I was already doing cutman stuff at the time. So I was already, I was a cutman already, and I was already, was building for a long time, like relationships with gyms, because I was a cutman. I was always the cutman for the promotion, and some like personal fighters where I was like their cutman. But lots of times I worked for other promotions, so I was seeing all the gyms. I was a neutral, friendly face to every gym because I was helping them out. If I was in your corner, I was gonna make sure the fight didn't get stopped, or I was gonna wrap your fighters' hands. I mean, I remember when I first started doing that, I would go to some of these promotions and like set up like a table with an armrest, and I'd wrap like 20 fighters, like one after another. I go
Yeah, I
to
remember
WK, rap like,
I remember that.
yeah, rap, right? Yeah. I think you did it with me a couple
Yeah, I
times,
did it
right?
a few
I was like,
times,
I
yeah.
need a second hand here. Let's
Yeah,
do this.
yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like a line of people. So I was getting
You'd be
connections to a lot of
amazed
gyms.
But you'd be amazed how many trainers that go with fighters that don't know how to wrap
Don't know how
hands.
to wrap hands.
Don't
yeah.
know how to wrap hands.
Crazy.
Yeah. And you know what? And there's some that absolutely don't know how to wrap hands. There's some that actually do, but would just prefer somebody else does it, which that is kind of like the boxing. And like in boxing, like the cut man does it. Like that's the cut man's job. It's like the trainer, the head trainer, he probably knows how to wrap hands, but his job is to be the coach there and be the trainer. He's not trying to take the time to wrap hands. He's worrying about other stuff, and he doesn't want to do it, basically. Or sometimes maybe they feel like it's below them or whatnot. Like they're just not doing it, like unless they were doing it that night. But you have a cut man for that. So there's but there are a lot of gyms that just have no clue, and they, but me being there, I became always like, all right, I could I'll send them over to Guch to get wrapped. I know my fighter, they'll start, hey, you're going to be at this event, or can I get you to this event to make sure? I mean, there was a time period, right? And I was still fighting then, but like towards the end of my fight where I was wrapping a lot of hands. I want to say like a lot of hands. I'm wrapping,
So that's how you met all the
That's
contacts.
right. Yeah. I met all the gyms, went by, and I'm meeting all the local gyms, all the coaches. I helped them out, or they saw me helping somebody else out. So a lot of that is the way that took off, with the cut man stuff. And then I got asked to be a matchmaker for a show that was out in Amazura. It was called Killer Instinct Kickboxing. It was run by the guys that were New York Fight Exchange,
Gotcha.
MMA. And then there was a guy, Mike Washington, and Mike was like, hey, listen, I think you do great, blah, blah, blah. He hired me as his matchmaker, and that was my first matchmaking gig.
Gotcha.
And then that ended up into matchmaking for Friday Night Fights. And then I teamed up with Eddie. So then it was me and Eddie with Friday Night Fights. And then we met up with Chris. And basically me, Eddie, and Chris like joined forces, and Justin Blair stopped doing shows. So there was no more. There was talk at the time we were going to do both. So we were going to be like owners of Warriors Cup, and then we were still going to matchmake for Friday Night Fights. And I don't know how that was going to work out, but it didn't happen. So we don't have to think about it, because then the pandemic hit and it kind of like put a halt on everything. So then, we just got going. We were like first ones going back with Warriors Cup right after the pandemic. And then Justin never did a show, you know, after that, so we never really had to do both. But
Right.
but we were gonna, you know, we were gonna.
Yeah. And now Warriors Cup is just like one of the premier like fight leagues in New York City for Muay Thai, and even on the East Coast.
Appreciate that, yeah.
You guys have paved the way for some contracts to one championship.
One
correct?
championship, yeah.
Yeah, and you gotten a lot of the pro fighters and amateur fighters move on the ranks and become pros, right?
Yeah, and we've been focusing on not just focusing on a local talent of, you know, you see a lot of our card now, like, I don't know, you know, like our next event, we have Chip from Boston fighting against Matt Baker from California. It's like,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like, this
exactly.
isn't a local guy. We're building, like, this is the fight. This is the big fights that should be happening. And, you know, we're spending the money to put them on because that's the fights that the people deserve. That's the fights the fighters deserve, right? It's the big fights the fighters deserve. So we've been trying to focus on
I feel
that.
that's what we lacked a lot back in the day, I guess, before Warriors Cup took charge, you know? Those out-of-state fighters fighting out-of-state people and just...
You always
Right,
got to
right,
be
right.
against the New York, right? And it
Right,
makes
right,
I
yeah.
understand why. Financially, I 100% understand why,
course,
because
yeah.
you want to have a ticket seller there, right? But I mean, we've been looking at the bigger picture now, and that is the bigger picture. Is like, it's the fights people want to see. It's not just building up your local guy. You know, everybody could say what they want of, you know, you don't get a fair shot in New York. It's not true. Like when I have like this fight, right? I have California against Boston. Like,
Yeah,
what's it to me who wins?
But it's funny. It's funny.
What's it to me?
It's funny how people feel like you don't get a true, like an honest ride in New York, when at the end of the day is the sanctioning body that actually does the judging, and it's not the promoter or anything
Right.
to do with that. You know, it's weird how people see it. Seems it's like you're in cahoots with the sanctioning body, or you own them, or they own you, or some shit
And
like that.
and
you know?
in the people's defense, unfortunately, like if a wild mistake or anything funny is gonna happen, for some reason it always happens on those like worst case scenarios where it's something, you know what I mean? It's like we have no control over it. It's not intentional on anybody's part, but stuff happens. Like, you know, stuff could happen, you know, where, you know, a referee mistake, or, you know, one judge was off that night. It's like, we got to do with that, you know what I mean? But like, you know, we're showing by just continuing to put on the fights that, you know, that should happen, that people want to see, where we're not even looking at like who's this going to be to fight this person, you know, where that's the way a lot of the promotions, you know, on like the regional level are designed. Like, it's designed in that way. Like, these are my local guys. Who can I find to fight them? And we're not doing that. I mean, that happens. Obviously, we want the local guys to find fights. But for us, it happens more of like they ran out of people to fight locally. Like, there isn't anybody local. So now I have to bring somebody in. Like, you know, Franz Pierre, I'm bringing people in for him most of the time, you know?
And that's when I found a lot of people would give up. You know, if you fought pretty much everyone in the New York area in that division and no one else is coming in, people just said, "Oh, why even
Why am I
bother?"
doing
That's
this?
just-
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So for the audience members, other than coming out to the show, supporting, buying tickets, how do we further grow the sport of Muay Thai where big sponsors are coming in and really putting some money behind it so that those fighters can actually make a living out of it, the coaches, you know, just the whole industry in general? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. I've been
Let
working
us
on
know,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we've been doing some things where we've actually like sacrificed a lot of our pay-per-view for not to say giveaway, because we're still getting paid on it, but it's on a different scale with like bigger networks, right? We're on Fubo TV now.
Gotcha,
So
wow.
Fubo, we're getting a
Fubo, yeah.
lot of views. We're getting into household names, right?
nice.
It's like, if you're watching Fubo TV, or, you know, we were on a couple other networks that we're giving it out to, basically it's going to get to more of like the general public, the people just flipping through the TV where it's popping up, that all of a sudden you're going to see a Warriors Cup and you're going to catch it. And that's going to just, you know, bring light to the sport. So, you know, we're actually taking, you know, a financial hit at that. To some regards, but we're doing it for like the greater good, because you're saying, we want to get the sponsors behind it. You can't get sponsors till you have eyes, right? And you're not really getting any real eyes if it's just local, right? If it's just local, you know, I don't care how we're doing 20 fights a month, let's say, even if everybody's friends and family are watching, that's not enough to grow with sponsorship. I mean, it's great. We love it, but that's not enough to grow. It's got to be household names where they know the sport, they build it up. You know, and that's really where we're aiming at. That's the goal now.
Yeah, back in the day, they used to get a little traction on ESPN.
Right.
You know, they used to show a few fights here and there. I actually had the chance to fight on one ESPN card.
And that was at the Armory, right?
No, that was Mohegan Sun.
Oh, Mohegan Sun,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But since then, I think they've really fallen off the track with combat sports.
Yep, and that's and the dynamic of that whole media element has changed so much. Like back then, it was like media deals. You had to put big money. Now there's so many opportunity. Like there's so many different outlets. You know, even TV. When you say TV, it's like what is to like who watches TV, right? Everybody, it's like what streaming site are you on, and this, that, and the other thing. So it's like that whole dynamic has completely changed. You know, I've been really diving deep. You know, we have a guy now who's been helping us, who's like a media guy, and he's been helping us. He got us on Fubo TV, and he's trying to find it to get, you know, like we're saying, we got to get that money behind Muay Thai. You know,
100%.
And I think it's coming. You know, 100%. I think it's coming.
Yeah, we feel so too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So here on the podcast, we love to go behind the scenes.
Okay.
And talk, get the viewers a sense of the day in the life or some challenges it is as a matchmaker, you know, promotion, running a promotion. What challenges do you face? Like Sean and I love to talk about the insane excuses that people give when they don't show up to a fight or, you know, their fighter misses weight. Like Sean and I always get my coach has been in a horrible car accident. Like, that's like the default excuse.
That's the default.
So give us a little glimpse of the life of a promoter.
I mean, like you said, I've seen and heard it all, just like you. But every time I think I've seen and heard it all, you hear one more new one that it's like totally crazy. Like I even just recently, I had a guy made weight, and then like because sometimes you hear, oh, he had a bad weight cut.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually believe this guy, but that's another thing. But I had a bad weight cut. I'm not going to make it to weigh-ins. I don't show up to weigh-ins. Usually after the weigh-ins happen, you see somebody hydrating, you can lock that in your head that fight's going to happen. The next morning, I get, hey, listen, he really didn't recover from the weight cut. He's not going to make the fight. And this is an experienced guy. And I was like, whoa, like that was a new one for me. Like I feel like that was a new one. And I've gone through a lot of them. I've even just, what was it? An exciting one. The guy showed, this was a good one one of those that made me think I've seen and heard all. A guy showed up to the event. He showed up to weigh-ins, doesn't mention this at all at weigh-ins, but then showed up the night of the fight. Hey, just to let you know, I have no cup, no mouthpiece, no shorts, but I'm here to fight. And this is, 3 hours before the fight, if you could provide those items for me, and you could, and I did. I found him a cup, I found him a mouthpiece, and I found him a pair of shorts, right? And
Did he win?
What?
Did he win?
Nah, he lost, but it was a close fight. It was a good fight.
It must have been the cup. The cup was too small. The cup was too small.
He was a little bit of an MMA guy, and it was a steel cup, and he was complaining about it. I actually shout out Malcolm Hill. He put that cup on for when Malcolm came through. I was like, Malcolm, I don't know how to tie these things. I never use this cup. I had Malcolm trying to help me tie the cup on. It was a nightmare. But this guy, he was like, listen, he was like, I was locked up. I don't have any of my stuff. I don't have access to my gym bag. But I'm here to fight. I didn't pull out, and I was like, so that was a good sign. Rather than the bullshit stories of when people pull out of the fights, that was a guy that no matter what was going to fight. That was the alternative to that. Because I've heard all the stories of why I'm not fighting. Like that could have been a good story. I just got out of jail. I don't have my gym bag. I'm not fighting. That would have been the alternative to that. But the difference was, I don't have my gym bag. I just got out of jail. If you find me these items, I will absolutely fight. I am here and I'm going to fight. And he did. He did. So I respected that one. You know what I mean? It was the alternative to that. But you hear every story about, hurt my ankle last night or fell weight cutting. Yeah. We just had a guy actually, but he was trying to still fight, but we had to call it. He got burnt cutting weight. So, and he showed, he got, so his butt, he was in a bath. And his butt, so he said he was in the bath, and his buddy was putting the hot water in, like lowering it in, like to get it hotter, to put the hot water in. But he tripped and like spilled boiling water on his leg, and he was burnt. Like it was horrible. He had a horrible burn on his leg. Yeah. So he was trying to fight, but he was like going into shock. Like he had worse than second degree burn. And then I looked at it, I was like, man, and I was like, and he was like, oh, I'll still fight, I think. And I'm like, and I'm looking at his leg, and then, but the other guy, this was like, the other guy was already wrapped up and everything. And then I see this burn, and I was like, man. And then I was like, how did the doctor miss it? Or he probably had pants on when he saw the doctor or something. Yeah. Wow. But then I told the doctor, I'm like, take a look at it. I was like, can't fight. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like bubbling up with warts on it. Like, just like bubbling.
Wow. Yeah, that was one of the worst. Like, but like I said, he wasn't, He wasn't bullshitting. He was
I mean,
burned. Like, you know what I mean?
the moral of that story is
Yeah.
don't trust that buddy with
Don't
that water.
trust your buddy with
Like,
a bucket of water.
Did he
Go
just
to the
boil that
sauna.
water?
Go
Like,
to the
what-
sauna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
wait in
with
the
that
sauna.
water. Right,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's a wild story.
Go to the bathhouse, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
what are we doing here?
That's some wild stories. Yeah.
But I saw, like, when I was at the last show the other day, a lot of people pushing the boundaries in order to make that weight. You know what I mean? Maybe fighting way too low, or maybe starting the weight cut too late, and then getting in severe problems like the week of the fight, or you know what I mean? Like,
It happens, yeah. I think, sometimes I always circle back on the conversations that I've had with fighters too, right? Because it's like, as a matchmaker, you're trying to make a fight happen. So something's going to be a good fight off a couple pounds, that if I know one team's not going to budge and it has to be this weight. So it was like, did I sway them to the, you know what I mean? I always have to think of myself in a factor in that. Did I sway them to accept the fight at a weight they weren't going to make? Then, I'm just as guilty as them for missing weight when it comes to that. But not really.
No,
if they take it,
but they should know whether they can make the weight or not.
They should
you're
know,
just
but
trying
I
to
do try to consider it.
But you're just trying to make a fight and sell a fight,
Right.
Right, and they should know whether they can make that weight or not. Realistically, if I'm at 165 and they're talking like 150, I know personally I can't make 150.
Right.
So, but for taking the fight and then getting into these, I mean, I've known people to like pass out in the sauna, and
no, we've had it happen.
Lucky enough, someone's there with them, and then the ambulance comes. But without that person, you're dead for the sake of a, 9-minute fight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. No, and I see it happen a lot. And then, you know what I think happens too? Like, I even noticed myself when I was fighting, like, your body changes. Like, your body knows, you get into the zone. It becomes like muscle memory of when you're cutting weight. So, like, people have like a little bit of a layoff, and then all of a sudden they think that their body is still that 145-pound fighter they were. It's like, you're not anymore. Like, your body changed. You're not getting back there anymore. So, a lot of that I think does become a factor. If somebody's on a long layoff and, they always fought at 125 pounds, it's like, you're not making 125 pounds. I can see it right away. I'm like, no way.
But Grant, if they're in a long layoff and blew up like you used to blow up to, I mean, it's a tough time getting back from it.
I used to blow up. I like my cookies, yeah.
So Gucci, when is the next show? What's the main event and the co-main event?
June
what fight you excited
June
about?
27th. June 27th, yeah. Melrose Ballroom, Astoria. You could, find tickets on 3pillarpromotions.com.
Okay, we'll put the link up.
Yeah. We also got, Warriors Cup TV. If you can't be there, watch it, tune in, tune in.
Definitely.
And like I said, that's support of the sport. When you can't be there, you watch the pay-per-view. We've been funneling a lot of money into production. We've tried to really upgrade our production values, add in behind the scenes interviews, add in like tail of the tapes and videos with the fighters, and just adding more cameras for the walkout, just like all these little things that, add up, but I think really make it special and different, and just focusing on lighting and getting the lighting proper so there's no shadows and everything looks good. This is really what I've been like focusing on lately and trying to like upgrade the production, because the truth is we've been pretty much selling out our venue, like capacity wise. Like, we're right around, we never say sell out. I hate the word sell out, because we'll never sell out. Even if we put 500 people too many in there, I will do it. So we're never. I hate.
I think you've done it already.
What?
I think you've done that shit already.
I've done it, and that's why every promoter's online. I'm like, oh, another sold out show. You'll never hear me say a sold out show, because it's not sold out. If you show up and you got money in your pocket, I'm letting you in
there.
I'm not turning anybody away.
Yes.
The fire department, we've had that too. We've had fire department walked. We had an event, first one back from COVID. We had teams waiting outside, taking turns, coming inside, watching their people fight, because the fire department was shutting us down because we're not turning anybody away. I don't know what sold out is. I don't know what it means, but I do know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but I do know that the venue gets really crowded, but you can't, you can never hit capacity of how many people are watching at home. So that's why I've been really trying to focus at like making the experience to watch from home being a better experience, where you're really getting a show, you're getting entertainment from it. We run things smoothly. So everything is, it's not aware to watch. You used to watch, you're just waiting for your friend to watch. Like, I want everybody to enjoy the show and have it run smoothly. So that's what we've been focusing on, and the camera angles. So that's your June 27th. Like I mentioned, that's a WBC, that just got upgraded to a world title. So we booked it as an international title. Chip is he's the champ. So he's the international champ, and Matt Baker is a contender in the rankings. And then I guess whoever the world title holder is in the meantime, since making that fight, he went and fought for a different promotion and got knocked out. So basically that strips you.
Gotcha.
So he got stripped and it made the world vacant. So the WBC contacted us, were like, hey, listen, the world's actually vacant and these guys both meet the criteria according to us. So if you want to upgrade it to a world title, you can. So these guys were agreeing to fight an international title, found out they were actually fighting to be the world WBC champ. And I'm not sure if it's ever been hosted in the United States before, but I know, I don't think we've ever done like a world a world level WBC.
I can make a comeback for one.
You may come back for that. I would love that.
How many subscribers do we need for you to make that comeback?
Yeah, I would love that.
Click that subscribe button. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and Sean will make a comeback and fight for a world.
You're never at full capacity.
Yeah, never at full capacity. Never.
Yeah, but Guch, we would love to collaborate to have some of your fighters come onto the podcast and just talk about the whole weight cutting process or behind the scenes, training and things like that. Yeah, we would love to collaborate. One day. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let me know. We'll get them over here.
Other than that, you've been amazing. We thank you for being a pioneer in the sport,
thank you.
for growing the sport and really just throwing the whole effort into getting production, the quality, so that these fighters can, with all that hard training, they deserve a stage to show their skills, So I want to, thank you so much for being a guest here and for telling us all the wild and crazy stories.
Thank you, guys.
And we would love to have you back on to talk about when martial arts is not in your life. I'm sure you have some crazy stories of.
Yeah, we can do that podcast. I'm not shy.
This is a man that wears many coats, man. Every time he's either barbecuing meat somewhere, Cornelison somewhere. I mean, yeah.
I do my food pop-ups too. Yeah. I got to where, a couple of the other promotions now, I'm not mixed up in, but I'm actually providing the food. Yeah. With Ricky, RFC Promotions.
Yes.
So RFC Promotions, I do the food out there. I do smash burgers. I make pizzas. Yeah.
You're probably the hardest working guy. You're the hardest working guy in the industry right now.
When does he sleep though?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We got the Gucci girls, and
Last time I was in an event, one of the referees walked by and they were like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I'm making burgers." They were like, "You're not the promoter?" I was like, "No, I'm not the promoter on this one." They were like, they're scratching their head. They were like, "You outside making burgers?" I'm like, "Yeah, I make burgers. I like to cook."
No, Guch, thank you so much for being a great storyteller.
Thank you, guys.
We would love to have you back, guys.
Thank you,
give it up for Guch.
Thank you, guys.